20 minutes, and then realizing, oh, I can't get a car in 30 minutes, and then having to drop off, and then there's frustrations, time wasted, linked to the Cambio brand, and we don't want that. So here we avoid people going through the whole process, and there's a bigger chance that they will return when they do need a Cambio, when they do need a subscription-based model. Then, of course, you can skip the introduction if you want. Then the second thing is snackable bites. So we added an in-between screen where you can see the 5 steps that you have to go through. There are a couple of things that we took into account. The first thing is Miller's Law, and this means that you can only have up to 7 items in your active memory. So it was important that we stayed under 7 items. So we took 5. In an ideal world, it would have been 4, but info session and quiz need to stay, so it's number 5. Then the second one is a visual anchor. So this is an in-between screen that you will go back to every time you finish a step, and that's your visual anchor of where you are in the process. So it helps you see where you are in the process and how long you still need to go, and also the little illustration also add a little visual element. And then the last one is completion bias. So we love to check something off, and instead of having to go through a whole process and having one little hooray in the end, we added a big ass check mark every time you complete a step, and now you have 5 little dopamine shots in your process, which makes it a lot nicer to go through the process. And you also get more motivated towards getting to your goal. That's called the goal gradient effect, so you get more motivated towards getting you to your goal if you get closer to it. And then the third one is reducing cognitive loads. So our brains can only handle so much, and we can't assume that someone who is doing the registration is doing it in an ideal scenario or an ideal context. We can't assume that their mental battery is full. We have to assume that there might be a lot of things going on around them, like children playing around, or you're at the office, or people are asking you things. And it can be that they've been through a long day, and it's the end of the day, and then your patience is just a lot lower, and you will drop off way sooner when things aren't fitting your expectations. So we did some things to try to make the mental effort as low as possible to scan the screens. The first thing is 1 task per screen. Instead of this was an original screen, where you have to fill in your personal data, it was really long. So you had to scroll through it, felt like a really long assignment. So what we did was 1 task per screen. So just, who are you? Your name. Next. What is your birthday? Next. What is your address? Next. And I know this adds clicks, and there's a bit of a taboo in the UX industry that it adds clicks. But if the clicks feel like it makes sense and you're going somewhere, then it's okay. And it actually feels more satisfying to go through 1 small steps, and you're just filling it in, clicking next, filling it in, clicking next. So that's way more satisfying than having to scroll all the way to the end. And the next thing that we did was chunking, and that's something that we did overall in the registration. It means that you group certain items, that it's more visually pleasing, but also easier to scan a page. The most important part that we did it was the pricing plans. So you had the pricing plans. You can see here it was also a very long screen, and it was actually 3 plans, and they were put below each other on the same screen. So if you wanted to compare plan 1 and 3, you had to scroll up, and then scroll down, and then scroll up again, and scroll down, and then you have to choose at some point, and then you have to go scroll down all the way to click next. So what we did is we turned it into little tabs so that you can easily compare between the different plans. You can also see the most important information at a glance, and when you need more information, you can click on look at the full plan, and then you see the full plan. And that's called progressive disclosure, so not showing everything at once, but just showing the most important elements, and then if they want to know more, they can click on it and they see more. So that's not to overload people, and just when they want more, they can see more. And then we have the pecan rule. This is the last one. The reason I put it on a black slide is because unfortunately we weren't able to implement this, but no project is perfect, and I did want to share it because it's something that we found really important. So weekend rules means that we don't evaluate an experience based on every micro interaction that you've had with that experience or product. We evaluate it based on the peak of the experience and the end of the experience. I'm going to show a graph to make it a bit more clear. So a very monotone experience where there's no ups and downs is actually experienced as rather okay, meh, and an experience with a lot of ups and downs, if it's an up in the end and there's a high peak, is actually experienced as more enjoyable than the monotone one, even if there were lower points than in the monotone one. So it's really important to make sure the lowest points are as high as possible and you keep your peak high, so making what you already do good even better. But it's really important to end on a high. I think we can all agree that a 10-minute info session and a 15-question quiz is not a high. On the contrary, it's actually not even effective. It's something called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And after 2 days, you only remember 40% of the information you received. So Cambio takes, I think, 48 hours sometimes to validate your account. So it's only after 2 days that you get to sit in the car. And then you only remember 40% of the info session. If you don't need a car right away and it takes a week, then it's just 10%. So what we recommended is just-in-time learning instead of just-in-case learning. Just-in-case is the info session, so you're teaching just in case people might need it. And just-in-time is when people are using the product, showing information about, like Slack does. While you're using the product, they share tips on how to use it better, or when there's a new feature, they share it while you're using the product. Imagine that when you're onboarding Slack, you get to see every feature, and they explain every feature that they have in a 10-minute long video. That's not nice. So these are the 4 things we did. Setting expectations, turning the process into snackable small bites, reducing the mental effort, and ending things on a high. Now you can see that there's a lot of power behind behavioral design because you can really change behavior, you can really affect how people perceive something. So with great power comes great responsibility, in the words of Uncle Ben. And what can you do to make ethical decisions and to not, because there's a very fine line between guiding someone towards a certain behavior and manipulating them towards a certain behavior. So what can we do? Here are some things that we took into account while working on Cambio. The first thing is don't go shopping in a nudge store. I know it's tempting. I know a lot of clients ask for nudges because it's a buzzword and it's cool and it helps retention. But please don't do it. There's a lot of nudges out there. Look for the ones that fit your product and then look at how you can implement them, because there's no one size fits all. A nudge isn't implemented always in the same way. An example is social proof. So social proof means that if people are unsure about what decision they need to make, they look at people around them to help them make that decision. And the most common example of this are testimonials, reviews, likes. But we didn't implement it that way. We chose to implement it in another way. And on our loading screen, we put a small text that said already this amount of people are using Cambio. And this is small social proof that confirms that you're making the right decision when you're registering for Cambio. Now, how to avoid dark patterns. There are no principles that are inherently good or bad. It's really, again, how you look at it, how you implement it. Every time you implement something, you need to decide, does this represent our product and do we find it ethical? But there's a process that you can use to make more ethical decisions, and it's called the second order effect. And it means that you look at your decision, you have your desired outcome, but then you also have a first consequence and a second consequence that might come after. So an example is the Facebook like button, very common example. So you have your decision, Facebook wants to implement a like button. The desired outcome is more engagement. People click on the like button, it's low effort, it's more low effort than commenting, so there's more engagement with the posts. Now, what could be the consequence after that? People love likes. It's little dopamine shots, we're looking for likes, we want more likes, everyone's craving likes and looking for likes. The consequence thereafter is people who don't get enough likes get bullied, might get depressed, get anxiety, and that's something that if Facebook might have done this exercise in the beginning, they could have decided that they wanted to implement their feature, but without the number, without the amount of likes, actually what Instagram is doing now, but after the damage has been done. So if they could have taken that into account from the beginning, they could have made the right decision. And the last thing you can do is validate. Of course, check with your users. It's not necessarily that you implement a principle and in theory it works a certain way, that in practice it will work the same way. So always validate it. The tool we use is Maze. It's Maze. It's an online tool where you can upload your prototype, you can add questions to it, and in the results you get a heat map and a usability score, and the usability score is based on how long people take to do it, how many misclicks, how many people drop off, things like that, and you get these really interesting heat maps and also a score. And we validated with 124 people, so definitely enough to get a strong insight. So we validated first the first Cambio flow. So everyone who already been through the first Cambio flow, we asked them what their experience was. And the results were very mixed. There were some people with a lot of patience that rated it pretty good, and then you have some people who are very unhappy, and then some people in the middle who were pretty okay with it. And then after that, we validated our new solution. So this was a prototype. You can see it's almost triple the amount of screens. So we didn't even make it shorter, we made it longer. So we added way more screens, and this was a perception. So almost 80% of people scored it above a 5 out of 6. So everyone was super happy, they thought it was a super nice experience. So even though, as a conclusion, even though we added screens, was more screens, we didn't even make it shorter, the perception is crazy amount better. And that's the power of digital design. Good job. I know if there are any questions. Is there a question answering? Yeah.
Is it live now, this app?
Yes, it is implemented. There are some things that we saw were changed, but it is live. We don't have the numbers yet because it hasn't been that long. But yeah, we're curious to see the numbers, but it is implemented. But we didn't develop it ourselves, so they had another party to develop it.
Question, I'm not sure if you're going to have an answer.
I don't know either.
But we were talking in the beginning about the comparison between their competitors, and they're very quick and easy, very modern applications, well designed, well, motive, I guess. You've made this change. The onboarding flow has obviously improved, it's been implemented, but then isn't there a potential shock for those users when they find out, oh, the rest of the application hasn't really been undertaken?
Yes. So that's what was our offer towards Cambio, to continue with the app. But there was a bit of an, not a power balance, but Cambio is located in Germany. And the onboarding was not on the same, it was not app-based, it's web-based. So the onboarding is not connected to the app, and that's why Belgium had the opportunity to change it, but the app is from Germany. So they're still discussing if there's an opportunity to change it, but the Germans said that it's working, so it's fine. So yeah, we're still working on that, but hopefully we'll get an opportunity to improve the app, also because it's horrible.
Also, I think they've only added like 1 or 2 features in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's really not nice.
Yeah.
So would be nice if we can change it.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
How long it took, like the whole process starting from design sprint?
Normally Google Design Sprint is like a week.
Yeah.
But that's what I said with we adjusted it because recruitment and things like that was really hard to really cram it into a week. I think it was maybe a couple of months, but I don't remember the full timeline. Does that answer your question, or want to?
Yeah. Is it like you were collaborating internally with?
Yeah, we were co-creating as much as possible. So we had a lot of, we had first a workshop with the relevant people at Cambio to get the prototype developed, and then we validated, and then we made an iteration, and we constantly worked together with Cambio to reach the common goal.
How did you find proper participants to take on the
That was actually not that hard because Cambio has a very broad audience. It's just people who drive cars. I know it's bad to say our persona is everyone, but it was close to that. So we really validated with as much people as we could. People were sharing it in Facebook groups like You're from Antwerp, if and things like that. So it was really just sending it to people you know, and Cambio was also looking for people. So that's of course what we did mention. It's possible that people who Cambio recruited are biased. Of course, you're recruiting people. We didn't include a reward, so that's already a thing that shouldn't bias people too much. But we did look for people outside of Cambio, from our network, and people via Cambio. So we tried to get a healthy mix. And I think there was another question over there. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a lot about the perception of time and how the original flow is quite long. You showed like the second flow, the improved one. Did you in any way, were you in any way able to measure how the users perceived how long it took between the original flow and the new one?
Yeah, actually we validated, and in the beginning, in our introduction, it said it's going to take 20 minutes. And someone in the validation said, oh, I would remove that because for me it felt like only 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So if I see 20 minutes, I'm gonna think it's way longer than it actually is. And if I see 20 minutes, I will probably in my head add 10 minutes more because people always lie, she said. So she actually said, maybe make it 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and I perceived it as 10 or 5 minutes. So it was a one-on-one interview. We did a combination of quantitative and qualitative just to get a bit more information around the data. So we had some inputs about that they actually perceived it as shorter, 10 minutes instead of 20 minutes. But unfortunately, we couldn't put the info session in the prototype, so it might take longer. But it was on the roadmap to remove the info session. So hopefully, we'll get there eventually. No, are there any more questions? Okay. Thank you.
We'll take a break and come back at 8 o'clock for the second talk. If I can direct you, so there's drinks at the bar, there might still be some pizza. If you want water, there's a machine around the corner back there.
Yeah.
And the toilets.
So it worked the second time. Yeah, I tried to notice. Yeah. No, it's it. Yeah, that's the difference. So what I did, Annie, was I normally had, I think, yeah, the default one, which I thought was this. So I really put it on my Mac Pro microphone. Well, if I could believe Ralph, the second part was with some audio.
Yeah?
Yeah. And like good audio or? Let's try it out right now. Oh yeah. Damn it. Yeah, that's the only fix I found any. I never had any problems with the sound so far. Yeah, it was a bit shorter, right?
It's working now, so we don't need to go off.
Is it working? Yeah, well, the thing is, if it's coming from my Mac, so it's not good enough. Okay.
I'll check it out.
There's one thing I can do is now I have it in safe mode, so I can't really access the settings. If I just close this program and I restart again, I can check around if there's some options here I can use. But then I have to restream again.